Ever wondered what makes some landings more difficult than others? From icy runways to challenging weather conditions, certain scenarios require pilots to think quickly and act with precision. Like and subscribe to find out why some landings are considered the most difficult in aviation. 1. Short runways, a high-risk challenge. Landing on a short runway is one of the most difficult challenges pilots can face. When an aircraft approaches a runway that is significantly shorter than usual, every second counts and there is little room for error. Short runways limit the available space for the plane to decelerate, making the landing more stressful and dangerous. Pilots must calculate precisely how to manage the aircraft's speed, altitude, and angle of descent, often relying on advanced landing techniques to ensure a smooth touchdown. Additionally, the aircraft's weight and wind conditions can significantly impact the approach and landing, as heavier planes take longer to stop. 2. Crosswinds, steering the plane in the wind. Crosswinds are another obstacle that can make landings difficult, particularly when they exceed the aircraft's tolerance. Crosswinds occur when the wind blows perpendicular to the runway, causing the aircraft to drift off its intended path. Pilots must compensate for this lateral movement by using specialized techniques, such as the crab method, where they angle the aircraft slightly into the wind to maintain a straight approach. During the final stages of landing, pilots must adjust quickly to ensure the aircraft touches down on the center line. In extreme crosswind conditions, the plane can become difficult to control, and the landing may require more skill and precision to avoid skidding or veering off course. 3. Snowstorms and ice. Reduced visibility and grip. Landing in a snowstorm or icy conditions can be one of the most dangerous challenges a pilot can face. Snowstorms drastically reduce visibility, making it difficult for pilots to see the runway, surrounding terrain, and other aircraft. Furthermore, the runway itself can become slippery, with snow and ice reducing the friction needed for safe braking. In these conditions, pilots must rely on their instruments more than visual cues, adjusting their approach to ensure they don't overshoot or misjudge their landing. Snow can also cover crucial runway markings, such as the touchdown zone and runway center line, which are critical for safe landing. Ice accumulation on the aircraft's wings and fuselage can also affect aerodynamics, increasing the risk of stalling. 4. Wet or slippery runways. Hydroplaning risk. When it rains heavily or there is standing water on the runway, it can create slippery conditions that increase the risk of hydroplaning. Hydroplaning occurs when a layer of water builds up between the tires and the runway, reducing traction and preventing the aircraft from decelerating effectively. In such conditions, it's harder for pilots to maintain control, and the aircraft may continue sliding along the runway rather than stopping. Pilots must account for the reduced braking ability on wet runways by making a smooth but firm landing, applying brakes, and reverse thrust carefully to avoid losing control. 5. High-altitude airports. Thinner air, longer landings. Landing at high-altitude airports presents a unique challenge due to the thinner air found at higher elevations. The reduced oxygen levels make the aircraft's engines less efficient, meaning the plane requires a longer distance to decelerate. High-altitude airports are often located in mountainous regions, where terrain can also create additional obstacles for pilots to navigate. These airports have shorter runways than those at sea level, and pilots need to factor in reduced engine performance, slower acceleration, and lower lift. In some cases, weather conditions at high altitudes, such as rapidly changing winds or extreme temperatures, can make landings even more difficult. 6. Fog and low visibility. Blind landings. Landing in thick fog or low visibility conditions is one of the most nerve-wracking situations for any pilot. Fog drastically reduces how far pilots can see, making it difficult to identify landmarks, approach the runway, or spot other aircraft. In these conditions, pilots rely on their instruments to guide the plane to the runway, using systems such as Instrument Landing System to ensure accurate approaches. However, even with these systems, landing in thick fog is still risky, as pilots must trust their instruments without being able to visually confirm the runway. Low visibility can also increase the risk of landing in the wrong area or misjudging the approach, especially when combined with other challenges, such as crosswinds or a slippery runway. 7. Thunderstorms and lightning. Strong winds and violent air. Thunderstorms are a major cause of difficulty during landings, with severe turbulence, strong winds, and the potential for lightning strikes all contributing to the danger. Wind shear, a sudden change in wind speed or direction, is especially dangerous as it can cause the aircraft to lose lift or deviate from its approach path. Pilots often try to avoid thunderstorms altogether, but when they can't, they must adjust their approach to mitigate the risks posed by these intense weather systems. Lightning strikes, while rare, can also be dangerous for aircraft, potentially causing electrical issues or sparking fires in extreme cases. Despite the risks, modern aircraft are built to withstand lightning strikes, and pilots are trained to handle such occurrences. 8. Mountainous terrain. Navigating challenging landscapes. Landing in mountainous terrain presents a unique set of challenges, especially when the airport is located within a narrow valley or surrounded by high peaks. In these situations, pilots must navigate the aircraft through a series of obstacles, adjusting their descent rate to ensure they clear the surrounding terrain. The air in mountainous areas is often more turbulent, and this can make the approach more difficult. The challenge is further compounded by the possibility of sudden weather changes, such as wind gusts or storms, that can impact the aircraft's stability. In some mountainous regions, airports are located on high cliffs or ridges, making the approach steep and dangerous. 9. Night landings. Reduced visibility and complex judgments. Landing at night presents its own set of challenges, particularly when the runway is poorly lit or visibility is limited. Pilots rely on instruments more heavily during night landings, and any misjudgment can lead to a dangerous situation. The visual cues that help pilots judge their approach during the day are absent at night, making it harder to judge the aircraft's position relative to the runway. In addition, tiredness and fatigue can play a role in night landings, especially on long-haul flights. Pilots are trained to make these landings safely, but they still pose an increased level of difficulty. 10. Unfamiliar airports. New challenges for pilots. When pilots land at airports they haven't flown into before, it introduces a level of uncertainty and difficulty, even for experienced professionals. Pilots must quickly familiarize themselves with the airport's layout, runway length, terrain, and any unique features that might complicate the landing. For instance, some airports have sloped runways, unusual approaches, or nearby obstacles that make them harder to navigate. If an airport has specific weather patterns or local conditions, such as high winds or frequent fog, pilots must adjust their techniques accordingly. Whether it's short runways, snowstorms, or rough winds, landings come with many challenges. What do you think is the hardest landing to make? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and join us for more fascinating aviation facts.